Alright, hey, what's up everybody? I'm glad you guys are following along in our little video series on how to go from noob to veteran ASM coder. We are at episode 4. In episode 4 we are going to talk about creating activators and deactivators, and this is for codes that do not have them by default. Sometimes a code creator will create a various code. They might post like a version without activators and deactivators and a version of the code with activators and deactivators. But sometimes a coder will not do it just for whatever reason, or they don't feel like the code has a need for activation and deactivation. So this is a thread right here. How to create activators and deactivators for codes. Okay, so first thing is first, you need a hex editor, okay? And you need RAM dumps, aka memory dumps, for what version of MKW you play on. So one hex editor I recommend, which everyone uses in the MKW coding community, is HXD. It's free. You can find it on Google after like 2 minutes searching it. And it works on Wine emulation in Linux. So it works on Linux, on Wine. It's a native Windows program. I have heard no issues. It works on like Windows XP, Windows 7, Windows 8, Windows 10. Free to use, free to download. Okay, so just Google HXD, download it, run the install wizard, get it all set up. On Wine and Linux, it takes a little bit longer because of your Wine configuration and whatnot. And now with the RAM dumps. If you don't already have RAM dumps, you can make your own. It's really easy on Dolphin. So it says regarding RAM dumps, if you have Dolphin emulator, look at this thread here. Now obviously you'll have Dolphin emulator because at the episode 1 I tell you what you need to have before you even start this journey, and one of the things is a quality computer with Dolphin emulator installed on it. Alright, so this thread will just go over how to do RAM dumps and whatnot. Okay, so really simple, just follow the guide. You'll get dumped as a binary file and whatnot. So when you do RAM dumps, there's options for mem80/81 and mem90. You just need the mem81 for this. So unless you want to also dump mem90, just do the mem80/81 and just rename the file whatever you want to name it as. And go ahead and open it in your HXD or whatever hex editor you're using. Okay, so for this guide, we're going to use the NTSCU version of Instant Item Boxes code. If I recall correctly, I think Anarion made this one. Okay, so let's just look at the basic code in its pure form. It's a basic 32-bit RAM, right? We see it nops the word value at whatever word is at memory address 80.815.368. So this nopping of this word value at that memory address causes the item boxes to reappear instantly. Okay, so in episode 2 I talked about controller lines, and in episode 3 I taught you how to fill in the XYZ values of controller lines. We're not going to go over filling in the XYZ values. We're just going to show you the format of how to plug in controller lines correctly, so you can get a basic code like this and change it to where you can activate and deactivate it at will. So for this, we're going to make it to where we're going to activate it with one button and deactivate it with a different button. So obviously we need 2 controller lines. So the first one, the activator, always goes at top. And since it's NTSCU, we know it starts with 2834 instead of 2833. As mentioned before, we're not going to worry about the XYZ values, just let them be. Okay. So this code is not going to work at all. If you were paying attention in episode 2, we know these controller lines create if statements essentially, and we have to apply end if statements essentially, or else this code right here is not even going to run or whatnot. Or if it does run, it's going to jack some other code in your cheat manager in Dolphin. So once you add one controller line and you add the normal base code, this nopping of this memory address, this word RAM, right? You need to plug in a halfway terminator. That is a halfway terminator. It's E followed by a bunch of zeros. Pretty simple. And now you need to do your deactivator. Now, before we talk about deactivating means, when we're talking about RAM writes and whatnot, restoring or writing back the default instruction value at whatever memory address the code is working with. Okay? Does that make sense? So, second, we just need to add a second controller line. This will deactivate the code. Now, remember what I told you. Alright, so since we're deactivating this code, whenever you deactivate a code, 99.9% of the time, it's going to be in a RAM write. If you're using a 16-bit RAM write that you're activating, you're going to deactivate with the 16-bit RAM write. If you're using a code that activates an 8-bit RAM write, you're going to deactivate with the 8-bit RAM write. And obviously 32-bit for a 32-bit. For ASM codes, it kind of depends, especially on complex codes. But for basic ASM codes, you would actually deactivate them with a 32-bit RAM write, finding the default instruction value at whatever memory address the code is at. So, obviously you wouldn't change memory addresses for deactivation. It'd be the same memory address as above. So, as I said, you deactivate a 32-bit RAM write with another 32-bit RAM write. Hence why we have this same value here as we do up there. Okay, so now we need to find the default compiled instruction value at address 80815.3C8. So this is where we need to open up our hex editor. Let's just go to this. No, that's the wrong folder. Wine, that's what I was looking for. No wonder why I clicked that. HXD, give it a chance to boot. Give me a sip of water. Dude, I'm always parched. Alright, let's exit out of that. Let's see, open. And I already have RAM dumps for every version. Obviously, I told you earlier how to, I told you what the thread to follow to dump RAM dumps on Dolphin. Since we're working with the NTSCU code, we need an NTSCU RAM dump. A RAM dump from the American game. Go select that, open it. Sweet. So, from here on out, all these shortcuts I'm using in the hex editor will be for HXD. They might not work on your hex editor if it's not HXD. But essentially, you need to go to an offset value. Now, what is the offset value? All the offset value is let's say I have a memory address, the one we're working with, 80815.368. Just completely remove the 80. So all we have to do is first do Control G. Just type in 815.3C8. That's it. That's all you need. Press enter. Alright. Now if you're looking closely, we got navigated here. So as you know from learning about episode 2, what we highlighted, this 90, let me copy paste it. This 901B 00B0 is the default compiled instruction word value at memory address 80815.3C8. Paste it back here. Obviously, because the way hex editors are, they put the bytes in pairs. Just remove the spaces, and boom. That's the default compiled instruction value for the memory address. And now, just finish it off with what is known as a final terminator, like that. And that's it. That's all you need to do. Really simple. And if you want, you can configure this code with an off-on switch by just plugging in this. ASM codes will be the same way. Let's just pretend like this was like a C2 code. I'm just going to plug in some random thing really quick. Just some random compiled instruction values. These might not even be valid instructions, but this is just for purely example. So you can do this. See, if you find a short ASM code that you want to activate and deactivate or whatever, this would be like the format for an off-on switch or whatever. You still would deactivate an ASM code with a 32-bit RAM write with the default compiled instruction at that memory address. Alright, and then if you wanted to, you can switch it back to separate button for activation and deactivation. Alright, and whatnot. And this is just obviously some fake code I just typed up really quick. But there you go. That is how to create activators and deactivators on a code that does not have them by default. Alright, and I think that, yep, that's all it for episode 4. In episode 5, we are going to talk about porting codes from one region of MKWe to another. So stay tuned for that. Alright guys, thanks for watching.